At exactly midnight, millions of people watch a clock reach zero and feel something they can't quite explain. A tightening in the chest, a quiet rush of relief, a fragile sense that whatever went wrong before this moment has now been sealed off behind them. The year has changed. The number is different. And because the number is different, they believe something inside them can be different too. But somewhere in the world, at that same moment, there are people who feel absolutely nothing. No shift, no relief, no symbolism. They close their eyes, or they keep scrolling, or they simply go to sleep. When they wake up on January 1st, it feels exactly like December 31st did. Not heavier, not lighter, just continuous. And the unsettling question is this: what do they understand about life that everyone else is trying not to see? Most people are taught, subtly and repeatedly, that time comes in clean packages. Years begin and end. Chapters close. Pages turn. This belief is comforting because it creates the illusion that pain has an expiration date and that failure can be contained inside a labeled box called last year. When someone says, "I'll fix it next year," they are not talking about time. They are talking about emotional distance. They are trying to put space between themselves and disappointment. The first day of the new year becomes a psychological firewall, separating who they were from who they want to believe they can become. But people who treat that day like any other have already crossed a mental threshold most never consciously reach. They do not believe time is segmented in a way that grants mercy. To them, the calendar does not negotiate with reality. This perspective often forms quietly, not through philosophy books or deep reflection, but through lived experience. When someone has endured long periods where effort did not produce visible change, they begin to notice something disturbing. Progress does not arrive on schedule. Pain does not respect dates. Growth does not announce itself. Life does not reset because humans want it to. Over time, the brain adapts to this realization. It stops attaching hope to symbols and starts attaching it, if at all, to actions. And sometimes, it stops attaching hope altogether. Not out of despair, but out of self-preservation. Psychologically, the first day of the new year is a promise amplifier. It magnifies intention without increasing capacity. People make vows that exceed their emotional, environmental, and psychological resources, then collapse under the weight of those expectations weeks later. For someone who has experienced this cycle repeatedly, January 1st becomes associated not with hope, but with quiet humiliation. The brain remembers the pattern: anticipation, motivation, public declaration, gradual decay, private guilt. So eventually, the mind opts out. It chooses neutrality over another emotional boom and bust cycle. Treating the day as normal is not a lack of ambition. It is a refusal to participate in a pattern that has already proven itself unreliable. There is also a deeper, more uncomfortable layer beneath this behavior. Many people rely on New Year's Day as a psychological permission slip. It allows them to delay change while feeling productive about the intention to change. "I'll start then" becomes a socially acceptable form of avoidance. People who ignore the date often see through this mechanism, even if they cannot articulate it clearly. They sense that waiting for a specific day to begin living differently is a subtle form of surrender. It hands authority over one's life to a number on a calendar. And once that authority is questioned, the number loses its power. These individuals tend to have a different relationship with identity. Where many people see the new year as a chance to reinvent themselves, they see reinvention as a fantasy that rarely survives friction. They do not believe the current self is a mistake that needs erasing. Instead, they experience identity as something continuous, sometimes damaged, sometimes improved, but never replaced. This continuity can look like stagnation from the outside, but internally, it often reflects a hard-earned realism. They know that the same mind waking up on January 1st will be the one carrying all the habits, fears, and tendencies from the day before. No amount of fireworks changes neural wiring overnight. Time, for them, is not narrative. It is mechanical. It moves forward, whether meaning is assigned to it or not. This perception often develops in people who have lived through periods where survival took priority over self-actualization. When your energy is consumed by getting through the day, symbolic milestones feel distant and artificial. You don't need a new year to remind you that life is difficult. You're already aware. In that context, optimism tied to a date can feel almost insulting, as if complexity could be overwritten by sun enthusiasm. There is also the social dimension. New Year's Day is one of the most collectively performative moments in modern culture. Optimism is expected. Reflection is staged. Resolutions are broadcast. People who treat the day normally often feel alienated, not because they reject joy, but because they reject compulsory emotion. They sense the fragility of public declarations and the pressure to appear hopeful, even when uncertainty dominates their internal world. Opting out becomes a form of quiet integrity. They would rather feel nothing than pretend to feel something they do not trust. However, this detachment is not always strength. In some cases, it is a symptom rather than a stance. Emotional exhaustion can flatten the peaks and valleys of experience until all days feel similar. When stress becomes chronic, the nervous system prioritizes stability over celebration. Excitement is metabolically expensive. Hope requires energy. For someone running on emotional reserves, indifference is not philosophical. It is practical. Treating the first day of the year like any other may be less about belief and more about conservation. What makes this psychology particularly unsettling is how invisible it is. These people do not announce their disengagement. They do not argue against resolutions. They simply continue. They work. They think. They exist. Their lives do not spike with motivation, but they also do not crash from unmet expectations. Change, when it happens, arrives quietly, often unnoticed even by them. It accumulates the way erosion reshapes stone, slowly, without spectacle, without witnesses. Modern culture struggles to understand this kind of change because it cannot be easily packaged or shared. It doesn't fit into before and after photos or annual retrospectives. It resists the language of transformation, and because of that, it often gets mislabeled as pessimism. But pessimism assumes expectation. Many of these individuals have moved beyond expectation altogether. They are not waiting for life to improve. They are responding to life as it is. There is something deeply unsettling about that mindset because it removes the safety net most people rely on. If there is no special day, no reset button, no temporal forgiveness, then every day carries equal weight. Every delay is real. Every choice matters now, not later. For many, that realization is terrifying. For others, it is clarifying. So when you encounter someone who treats the first day of the new year like a normal day, you are not witnessing indifference. You are witnessing a relationship with time that has been stripped of fantasy. Whether that relationship was formed through wisdom, pain, Fatigue or clarity varies from person to person, but one thing is consistent. They are not waiting for permission to live differently. They are not borrowing hope from the future. They are standing inside continuity, fully aware that life does not restart, it only proceeds. And perhaps the most disturbing question is not why they ignore January 1st, but why so many others need it so desperately. Many people don't rely on the new year because it truly changes anything. They rely on it because it delays responsibility. Believing that change starts later creates emotional relief in the present. It allows difficult choices to be postponed without feeling dishonest. People who treat January 1st like a normal day have often stopped trusting that relief. They know postponement disguised as optimism is still postponement. That's why their indifference can feel uncomfortable. Without a symbolic reset, there is no clean slate to wait for. Only continuity. Only today, connected directly to yesterday. Improvement stops being something you enter and becomes something you practice while still being the same flawed person. That realization removes comfort, but it also removes illusion. And here's the quiet irony. Many of these people still change, just without ceremony. Their progress doesn't announce itself. It doesn't spike with motivation. It compounds slowly, almost invisibly, inside ordinary days. Life doesn't unfold on milestones. It unfolds in repetition. And the people who understand that don't need a new year to begin. They're already inside the only timeline that exists.